السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, uh, last week we did uh, the deposit products and also the financing Murabaha. Sorry, we did Murabaha financing. That the Murabaha financing can be used for house financing or uh, today inshallah we are going to do ijara, that is basically a rental mode of Islamic Sharia allowed financing. Okay, so let me go to the introduction, right? The word ijara or al-ijara simply means it comes from the word ajir, meaning reward or wages. In the Quran, the word ajir is used for reward. For if you do good things, you will get ajir. Okay, so in this life, when you do some labor and you receive, let's say, your wages or salary, that's also ujra. We call the salary ujra. And the transaction, that is, you are hiring me and you are paying me, right? So you are hiring me. So I'm actually renting myself. Okay. Although in modern terms you don't use that, but that is the contract is ijara. I'm giving you a service and you're paying me ujra, which is the fee or salary. Okay, so it is the ajir, meaning reward or wages for work done or services rendered. So the technical meaning in fiqh means a contract for hire of persons or services or usufruct of a property. So in Islamic banking or Islamic finance, we normally, in the context of Islamic finance, ijara is you're renting a property. You're renting a property. Okay, but you're not selling the property to the person who is using it, but you're giving the usufruct. That means the manfa'a or the benefit of using the property. That's what you're selling. All right, for a fee. It could be as long as you use monthly fee or daily fee or whatever. Okay. For example, if you rent a car, that's ijara contract. You see, basically operational ijara, operational leasing. You rent a car for 5 days and you pay so much per day, and there are all the other conditions. Okay. So using the car, you're getting the benefit of using the car, but you don't have ownership of the car. Okay, that's what it means. So there are 3 types of ijara contracts in use. Okay. First one is ijara, al-ijara tashghiliya, which means operating ijara. Those of you who have studied finance or, MBA or BCom, you might know when you study finance, you might know what operating lease and finance lease. And finance lease is when the risk and rewards of ownership are transferred to the lessee, right? So here, but let's say if you're just renting a car, that's an operating lease. Okay, you just use the car and return the car, let's say. Okay, but when banks use the lease, they can have operating ijara, but the problem with operating ijara is, excuse me, they will be, they might be stuck after, let's say they rent a car to you for 5 years. After that, they're stuck with the old car, so they don't want that. Okay. So normally the bank will do a financing ijara. We don't have financing ijara. We can call it al-ijara muntahiya with tamlik, which means al-ijara with option to transfer ownership of asset to the lessee. Okay. In Malaysia, we have a particular contract. They call it al-ijara summa al-bay, which is basically something like al-ijara muntahiya with tamlik. But the transfer of ownership at the end of the lease is by sale, not by other means. Okay. We will have a look in detail a bit more later on. Okay. I've been warned not to quote Malaysia too many times, but I think because we are sort of one of the first to come out with these things, so we have a lot of experience. And I wouldn't say that Malaysia is the best country for Islamic finance because we're too liberal from the Sharia point of view. But I think many of the experiences we had is useful, inshallah, even if when in India, if you can do it by, we have to overcome the constraints of the law in India and make it whatever if it's necessary to follow the law in India. But we can work around, we can do it just like in software, you want to solve the problem, we can have a workaround. So we have to do workaround in India to have Islamic banking. Okay. An interesting thing I want to point out is in Turkey, Turkey is officially a secular state, because of thank you to no thank you actually to Mustafa Kamal. He made a lot of mess there and he turned it very fundamental secularism like France, very opposing religion, especially Islam. So it took a lot of time to change the people back into Islam a bit. Even today, about 60% don't practice Islam in Turkey. But Alhamdulillah, at least there is a conversion. So when Turkey wanted to do Islamic finance, it couldn't do it because the constitution is secular. So in Turkey, they don't call it Islamic banks, they call it participation banks, but they follow the Sharia, but they are not called Islamic bank because you cannot put anything, Islamic party or Islamic bank or Islamic institution, even a waqf, you cannot call it Islamic waqf. Okay, okay, but they do have waqf, but they don't put the word Islam. That's the problem in Turkey, unfortunately. All right, so that's right. So here we look at a financing model of Ijara as used by the banks. Okay, if it is Ijara Muntahiya Bitamlik, that is, the transfer of property at the end of the lease, the bank sells the car to the customer at the end of the Ijara term. Okay, if not, the car is returned to the bank. If it is an operating lease, it's returned to the bank to be released or disposed. So we have here, that uh, uh, a person, let's say a customer needs financing to buy a car. Okay, so he goes to the Islamic bank and say, look, I want to buy a car, right? So he makes a promise in writing and probably pay a deposit. Okay, and then and he will identify what car he wants and so on, and for how long he want to pay the money back. Or the what you call the term of the ijara. So what happens is the bank will go and buy the car from a dealer because the bank doesn't sell cars, and then sell it, not sell it, sorry, that will be murabaha. So they will rent it to the guy who wants the car. Okay, they rent it to the guy who the customer. Okay, and then the terms will be, okay, I'm going to rent the car to you for 5 years. Okay, and you have to pay me so much. So the amount of installment you pay will be actually calculated based on the financing cost plus cost over the term, and also the residual value of the car will be calculated inside and put inside there, so that by the time you pay the 5 years of lease payments, basically you have already paid fully for the car plus the financing charges to the bank. Okay, all right. So remember that this is still a lease and it's not a sale, right? So what happens at the end of the thing is, at the end of the uh, term of the JARA contract, the lease contract, okay, the lease is, the car is transferred to the customer. Okay, the ownership of the car is transferred to the customer because for the 5 years of the term of the lease, the car actually belongs to the bank. All right, it's not owned by just like you have a lease, you go and lease a car from a bank, you don't own it, you can use it but you don't own it. Okay, until end of the contract. Okay, normally if it is a higher purchase car contract, at the end of the thing, they'll just give it to you. Okay, because it's called hire and purchase. Now, why can't we have a higher purchase in Islam? The problem in Sharia is not the problem actually. The fact of the Sharia is that you cannot combine two contracts in one in Islamic law in Sharia. So if you have, you know, what you call, if you have a contract which has a lease and then also a sale at the end of the period, then it is not a valid contract. That's why we can't have a higher purchase. Okay. So you cannot write into the contract that, other thing, after that, automatically the thing will transfer to you. You can't do that. Okay. Okay. So how does the Islamic bank transfer the ownership of the car to the customer at the end of the ijara period? So you can do it by gift. Okay, since basically you have paid for the amount, so so they will make a gift contract to you. Okay, it's already written in the contract. Okay, so they will make a gift contract and transfer the car to you. Okay, then or token sale consideration at the end. So you pay $1 or you pay 10 rupees. Okay, at the end of the day, so it's a token sale. It's still a sale. It's the token sale, but it's not for the value of the car. You just because you can pay consideration can be any amount, is it? Okay, so you pay 10 rupees and you buy the car. Sale is a specified amount. So like this one is like if, for example, if you rent a Mercedes Benz, okay, they will after 5 years they will give you an option to buy the car. So at that time it's not free or token sale. They have to look at the market value of the car at that time. And they already estimated at the front of the lease agreement. So they said, okay, if you have paid all the lease payments at the end of the 5 years, you can buy the car for this amount. Okay, this amount. Because they already calculated the depreciation of the car. So you have to pay the value of the car at that point in time. So you can, okay, in that case, all right. So what? Okay. Now, well, then sale during the lease period. So let's say you make the ijara for 5 years, okay? But suddenly, you get a big bonus from your boss, all right? Okay. So at the end of 3 years, you want to buy, you don't want to, have the hassle of paying, and paying more. So you want to end and you save all the financing charges. So what they do, you can during the lease period, the customer can say, look, I want to buy the car, and at that time, because you haven't finished the contract yet, the bank will calculate how much you have to pay to end the lease and purchase the, okay. Or you can have gradual transfer during the lease. Now, this one is, in Malay we call it lece, It is very troublesome, which means that after each installment, you have to make a sale contract. Okay, I transfer the ownership of 5% of the car, 10% of the car, 20% of the car. I mean, it will accumulate. So this one you can rule it out. This one might occur. This one is basically not done because like if you go to the Mercedes Benz, actually you can get a lease and hire purchase agreement. So, and they will tell you, after 3 years or 5 years, you have to pay this amount. Okay, so you can put in the contract, but that's a conventional contract, All right. Now, how do we get over this problem? Because as I said earlier, that you cannot have two contracts in one year, isn't it? So you can't have a lease contract and a gift contract, lease contract and a total sale contract, lease contract and a specified amount contract, or lease contract to sell the thing during the lease period, or lease contract to gradually transfer the ownership. You can't do all this. So how do they do all this? In Ijara Muntahi Bitamlik, what they do is either the bank or the customer will agree to make a promise which called wa'ada. I think I mentioned this before. Wa'ad contract. Wa'ad means promise, unilateral promise. Two parties cannot make the promise to each other. That means it's a contract. When two parties make a contract in each other for the same thing, that becomes a aqd. It's not a wa'ad. Wa'ad is a promise by one party to do something. And sometimes some wa'ad can be what you call binding, and some wa'ad is not binding. Sometimes the law of the country will make the wa'ad binding. Okay? So usually in the Islamic banking countries, they will make the wa'ad binding because otherwise the bank will have to take a lot of risk. Okay? Right. Now, so how does it happen? Let's say we have a gift at the end of the period. So when you're doing the ijara contract at the beginning, all right, at the same time, the bank will make a promise that if you pay all the thing, we will gift it at the end of it. This is a promise, not a contract. Okay. So of course you have to abide by the contract law, so the bank will do that. Or they can say, okay, if you pay all the installment, okay, we will give you for the car for 100 ringgit or 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees. Okay, at the end of the period. Okay, or sale at a specified amount. Okay, so the bank here will promise we pay all the installments on time and all that. So at the end of the contract, we will sell this car to you at this amount. Okay, or similarly, if you're doing sale during the lease, that one is one of the terms, for example, if, because that's not a definite this thing. So, so it is a conditional thing in the ijara contract where if you want to buy the car, you can. That's an option only. Ikhtiyar we call it. Yeah. Okay. So it's an option to buy it during the lease. Then this one also you can do a promise thing, but normally it's done. This is not done. No? Okay, it's not done. So you see now, so although we cannot have two contracts in Islam, we can have a contract and a wa'ad by one party. Either the buyer or the seller, they can have one party or in this case it is lessor and lessee. Yeah? Okay. I think there's another mu'tajir or something. I forgot the Arabic terms for that. All right. So one party will make promise to give a gift or token sale or sale at specified amount, but the third one is not actually a promise. It's just it's part of the contract, which is just an option. It's not part of. It's not another contract. Okay. All right. What are the elements of ijara? So, like any other Islamic contract, it would offer an acceptance. So one party might make the offer, the other one will require acceptance. Okay. So the bank will make the offer and the customer will accept it. So the contracting parties are the lessor, it's the owner of the asset, and the lessee, the party that benefits from the use of the asset. There are Arabic terms for this, I just forgot. I think mu'tajir and okay, so hajir or mu'tajir, something like that. You have to check. Subject matter of the contract. This includes the consideration, which is the rent. So what is the rental payment you have to pay? And benefit from the use of the contract. What are the conditions? Okay. Sometimes you can use it only for certain hours of the day or 24 hours or what. So the other, this thing will be there. Okay. And of course, you'll mention what you are renting. Is it a house? Is it a car? Is it a machinery, construction machinery, or whatever it is. Okay. So it should be noted benefit from the use of the contract is the subject matter because it is the element to be satisfied or return for the rent. So this is the element to be satisfied. This is the consideration for the rental you are paying. Okay. All right. Now, of course, the asset you're dealing with must be a halal asset. Okay. So you can't lease haram asset lah. Okay. You cannot say I lease a alcohol making factory. Yeah. All right, or a gambling den or gambling casino. You cannot do a ijara at the gambling casino. Okay, so the subject matter must be halal. Okay, all right. Okay, okay, you can. If you want to ask in chat, you want to ask any questions in chat, please use the chat and address it to everybody. Okay, not to me in particular. I'll check after I finish this. Okay. Hence, So it is a benefit of using the asset which is guaranteed rather than the asset itself. Right. A basic rule of ijara is it should be executable. That means there must be something to be rented out, and and the guy must be this thing. For example, let's supposing you are renting a house. Okay, you are renting a house, and the house has a leaking roof, which is so bad that you cannot live in the house. So that's not executable. You must have something that they because you can't stay there. Therefore, there's no manfa from the house. Okay, okay, you're not just buying the house to look at it. Okay, so that means that's why it should be executable. All right. If the commencement of the contract is not stipulated, the ijara will start from the time of the contract and be executed as from the date. You can mention when the contract will start, maybe in the future, maybe about one week later or something like that. Or you can start the contract at the time of signing the contract. Okay. Okay. Ijara contract, according to which execution of the contract is deferred to the future, is valid. However, in such a case, the Hanafi Mazhab, the contract is non-binding. It's still a valid contract, but it's not binding. That means if later the customer decides, okay, I don't want to follow up, I don't want to rent the car during that time where, before they start, then he can refute the contract. The majority of fuqaha agree that ijara like sale cannot be made contingent on a future event or condition. Okay. So let's say you're executing an ijara contract and it will start from the future, but you cannot put a condition like I say, oh, if I get my salary increase or I get a promotion, then I will rent the contract. Okay. So you can't do that. Or the bank cannot say, oh, if we get the car within 6 months, then we will do. No, you can't do that. Okay. So Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Jawzi, one of the opinion, these are the great ulamas of classic ulamas. Okay. That okay. Then making ijara contingent on any future event is considered permissible. Or this is a different opinion, but Hanafis cannot. Okay, non-binding. All right, become non-binding. It is valid, but it's not non-binding. It's not binding. And also, in all the mazhab, the majority, if you make it conditional, then it's not valid at all. All right. But these two scholars, they have the opinion that if you make the thing contingent, it is permissible. But this is a minority opinion. Okay. So it's always better to go for majority opinion, a bit safer, because there is a hadith. Rasulullah said that my ummah will not agree to something haram in majority. That means the majority of my ummah will not agree to something which is haram, because we have some sort of once we are Muslim and we know basic knowledge of Islam, then our conscience will tell you, look, this is not, it's the shady type of contract, and there are many shady types in Malaysia, all right, which I don't agree with, but scholars they give opinions. So it's better to follow the majority opinion. Okay, it's a bit safer. That's what I would say. Okay, so this is a transaction flow of Ijara financing. So first, the bank will acquire the asset, you lease the asset to the customer, and the expenses and revenues. The initial expenses that the bank will bear, and the depreciation or maintenance, basically the bank must bear this, okay, because it owns the asset, okay. And the Ijara revenue, the bank would receive. And once, supposing it is an operating Ijara without transfer of the property, then you have to dispose the asset, because after 5 years, you don't want, the bank doesn't want to use the car, it has to sell the car. You can sell it using some second-hand dealers, and they'll have agreement. So, and then when you sell the car, you will have to have gain or loss on this person, right? So, unfortunately, although the the bank or the lessor has the uh, what you call liability for the ownership expenses, not running expenses, ownership expenses. Okay, supposing for example, you have a what you call you have to maintain the machine or something, otherwise it will not run. So the contract might not become non-executable because it cannot run means it cannot be used, right? No manfaat. So normally it is the what you call the lessor will have to pay the ownership cost. But running costs, for example, if you rent the car and you are going to travel, you have to put petrol lah by yourself, right? Okay. And if you have okay an accident, technically speaking, the bank will will have to provide a takaful or insurance. But normally nowadays they write the thing say you take the kaful, we don't want to bear all this cost. Okay. So that will be included. So otherwise the bank will have to include the takaful cost and so on. Okay. So and then washing the car and all that, of course, that's a normal thing you have to do to keep it clean, right? So it's not ownership expense; it's running when you run, and then if you have a tire puncture and all that, the lessee is responsible, not the lessee. Similarly, if you are renting a house, the lessor will have to pay the renovation and maintenance. Let's say the roof is leaking or the fence fell down, they have to repair, or the wiring is some problem, they have to repair plumbing problem inside. Unless you are negligent and you damage the house, then you have to pay. Okay, all right. Okay.